So my sermon title for today is "The Best is Yet to Come." And that is for everyone sitting here. That is for us as a church, us as an institution, the schools. And I just want to proclaim that the best is yet to come. Isaiah 43 verse 18 to 19 says, "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" And I want to say, especially to the people that have been in this church for a long time, do not miss out on what God has been doing the last few years and what He wants to do now and what He's currently doing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I feel that that question is asked because so much of us are focused on our own things or former things that we miss out on present things. And I really believe that He wants to do something special in every life here. I really believe the best is to come for us. If you just think of the future that God wants us to have, how God works in us, molds us, challenges us. The reason He challenges us to grow is that we can reach new levels spiritually and even physically. And you might be sitting here and you can say, "Shay, this sounds amazing, but you don't know my past. You don't know my story. You don't know what I've been through, what I grew up with. You don't know what I'm currently going through." But what I do know is, when life gives you lemons, you need to make lemonade. So I've got some lemons here for us. Visual aid. Visual aids are so important so that when these things pop up in our day-to-day lives, that we don't forget about things. You see, some of us have been dealt lemons, and a lot of us are still holding on to these lemons. And we ask ourselves, and sometimes I ask, like, why do we as humans, why do people struggle to give up things in their past? So maybe one of these lemons is your upbringing. Maybe it's your family never left you an inheritance. You didn't grow up in a Christian household. Maybe you were abused as a child. Maybe you were abused in your former marriage. And God wants to deal with these things. He wants us to move on. He wants us to let go of these lemons. Unfortunately, some of us just don't want to let go of these lemons, especially when it comes to church people. We love holding on to lemons. And the reason we don't let go of these lemons is that if we let go of them and deal with our trauma, past trauma, we're not really going to have anything to talk about in church when we see our friends. It's easier to hold on to something because then you've got a story. Then you've got an excuse for where you are. I sometimes get scared to ask certain people how they are doing. And the honest reason is I'm afraid they're going to tell me. They're going to share their lemons. And why there's so many people that don't attend church anymore, because I think when they come to church, they just see people sharing lemons with each other. And I'm not talking about unbelievers. I'm talking about believers that love sharing lemons with one another. You know, it's, this one said that. Oh, this one said this. Oh, how are you doing? Oh, it's been such a long week. Oh, it's my back. Oh, it's my head. Oh, it's my knees. Oh, can you please get over it? You cannot do anything about your past, but you can do something about your attitude towards your past. We can't change our past. We can't change what we've been through, what's happened to us, how we got treated by other people. But we can change our attitude, the way we look back at our past. Again, you might say, Shay, you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know my story. You don't know all of my story either. But we all have a story. Everyone sitting next to you has got a story. The front row, don't think that the people that sit in this front row, the pastors, don't have a story. In fact, the reason they became pastors is because God can use their story, can use what they've been through. A lot of times, people that do amazing things for God, they've got a bigger story than the average person. But they've allowed God to use that story. So I want to share my story with you guys. Not all of it, but quite a bit of it. Some of you have heard. There's going to be 1 or 2 points that I've never mentioned to anyone. There's even something I've never even mentioned to my wife or my parents that I want to share about today. So, if we can please put the first picture up of me as a baby. So there I am. You know, sometimes people say, your babies are ugly. Damn, I was an ugly baby. I did not, my dad made it very clear growing up that I was an ugly baby. You know, some parents will say, no, I've got a beautiful baby, and then you look at them and you know, are you lying? It's just because it's your baby. My mom still said I was beautiful. But God gave her different eyes when she looks at people. My dad, he spoke the truth. One of the reasons I wasn't a looker is that I was born 6 weeks premature. I was born prem. As I grew older, I learned that when I was born, for the first 2 weeks in my life, I had a 50% chance of making it. So the first few weeks of my life, my parents didn't know if they were going to have me. I think my mom didn't get to hold me for the first 2 weeks. First week, my mom wasn't allowed to hold me. You can see there are pipes everywhere. And the reason why my mother wasn't allowed to hold me was they were scared if I heard her voice, I would recognize it and I would move. And it was crucial, all these pipes that was connected to me. Lemon number 1. For those of you that have come to the church in recent years, you know my dad and I are very close. And I love him with all my heart. He's the best dad I could ever ask for. But growing up, he was another lemon. I grew up with parents that got divorced. Lemon number 2. They got divorced when I can't remember how old I was, probably about 7 or around there, or 8. It's a crucial age in a child's upbringing, wouldn't you agree? For their parents to be together. My dad let me down so many times. I waited with my little suitcase. I shared with the school kids a while ago. I brought my old little suitcase. And I would be standing there waiting at the gate for him to come pick me up. Because every second weekend I was supposed to be with him. He would phone me and say, I'm on my way. And hours later I would still be waiting and he wouldn't pitch. I saw things as a child that you should not see. I saw my mom cry herself to sleep. For many years, I had to go comfort her and be the strong one when I was a young boy. Lemon number 3. I love sport. Both sides of my family were very sporty. I think one of my early dreams that I had was I wanted to become a cricketer. I loved it. I'll never forget when I was like 6, 7 years of age. I could watch a whole test match. So for those of you that don't know about cricket, a test match is 5 days. You know, most kids, when you go, I see Gabriella shaking her head. I think that's how a lot of people think when they watch cricket, or especially golf. When we go to the stadium and go watch, whenever there's a big game, I'll go with my wife. You see the young kids, and they will be excited to go to the cricket, but it's more to play with their friends and take a ball and stuff like that. They go to cricket, but they don't actually watch cricket. Maybe 2 balls. I could watch it with my grandfather, my mom's dad, for hours and hours. I just loved it. And as a 7-year-old, I remember diving and bowling in the backyard, and I just loved cricket. And for those of you that know, especially cricket now, you need one-on-one coaching. You need that extra coaching, especially if you want to be a top batter. But growing up, we didn't grow up with much finances. You know, we always had, you know, food we always had food to eat and things like that, but there wasn't money for extra things. And 11, 12, I remember going for district trials and that. There was a coach at Central, Mr. Kali Hutton. He passed a few years ago, and he was a great man. And he saw a lot of potential in me, so he would ask my mom, could he please see me? And I remember financially, my mom couldn't afford it, so she would pay for 2 lessons for me a year. So 2 lessons just before the trials, I would go to him, and then I would go for the trials, where all the other kids went to him 2 times a week throughout the year, or at least once a week. And that was a dream of mine, and you never know. I could look back and think, hey, what could have happened if I had the opportunity the other kids had? Lemon number 4. It wasn't that I was lazy or didn't want to work hard. We just didn't have the finances for the right equipment or the opportunity. A few years later, I think golf really caught my attention. Not I think, it did. So on my dad's side of the family, they were all golfers, and they were all amateur. We had a few of them that went pro. We had a pro golf coach, my one uncle. They were Central Gauteng captains. They were all top golfers. So around 14, 15, I really thought, no, I would love to do this. That passion grew up. That passion started to grow in my heart. And I'll never forget, I went to my Uncle Chris, who was the one that went the furthest in the family. He was playing golf as a professional on the European tour at that stage. And I'd heard stories from my nana, my dad's mom, and my daughter, my dad's dad, that I spoke about last week. I heard stories of all the boys playing golf and how competitive it was. And I remember my daughter telling me that my dad was actually the most talented one. He just was the naughtiest one. And my Uncle Chris, they all said he was the weakest one, the least talented, and he ended up going the furthest. So when I had an opportunity with him, I sat down with him and I said, like, Uncle Chris, please be honest with me. I want to be like you. What does it take? And he looked at me and he said, talent means very little in golf. It's how hard you are prepared to work. He said, while the others practice 2 to 3 hours a day, I would practice 6, Monday to Sunday. So I grasped onto that. At a young age, I realized if I want this dream, I can make it happen. It is possible if I put in the hard work. And thank goodness my aunt and uncle at that stage, they sponsored me a bit of money every month to pay for everything, for my membership, so I could play every day. We moved, my parents got remarried, that we moved closer to the golf course, so I could walk to golf every day because I didn't have to rely on a lift. And I was just so committed, and I started getting really good. And I remember Jackie, my golf coach, I was an old golf coach, and there was a good group of youngsters, like talented youngsters from my age. And he saw all of them, and he one day grabbed me, he pulled me to the side, and he said, I've never seen anyone with your work ethic at your age. You will make it if you carry on this path. One day after gym, I went to do some weights, and I bent down, and my left knee got a bit sore. Long story short, it got so bad that I could hardly walk, and it affected my right knee, and I was bedridden for about 6 months, where I would have to decide, am I going to be upstairs on my bed or downstairs on the couch, because the stairs were just too sore to walk, because it was both knees, so I couldn't even hop on one leg because they were both sore. And I couldn't play golf for about 4 years, and I just every month saw my dream disappearing. Lemon number 5. Don't worry, there's still a few more, if you're wondering. When I grew up, when I was young, I had a terrible lisp. I couldn't speak properly. Some people couldn't understand me. I hope you guys can understand me now. So I had to go for speech therapy. I hated it, especially when you're like 12, 13, 14, a young boy. Now you've got to learn how to speak properly. That was a hard one. I remember my mom taking me to this lady, and she wasn't very friendly as well. She used to get irritated with me. And I didn't like her. I don't think she liked me. She thought I wasn't doing my homework. I was. I couldn't speak properly. And the one day I sat there, and she started getting irritated with me. She said, put your tongue near the roof of your mouth. Put your tongue there. I said, I am. She said, no, you're not. I said, I am. I said, I can't. And she looked at my mouth, and I actually had 2 teeth that had grown out sideways at the top of the roof of my mouth. There wasn't enough space in my mouth. I've actually got a small mouth. A lot of you might say I have a big mouth, especially when it comes to my close friends, but physically I've got a small mouth. So I could never get my tongue to the roof of my mouth because there were 2 teeth there. And if you pronounce an S, if you want to practice it quickly, your tongue goes up. It's supposed to. Mine couldn't. So we went to go see the dentist. He said, no, it's a problem. We're going to have to remove these teeth. And we did. I hope it helped a bit. I didn't go for more speech therapy. I was irritated with that lady. I just said, Lord, just help me. I'll do my exercises by myself. But as a 14, 15-year-old boy, you can just imagine at high school how that goes. Especially when you're at an all-boys high school, and any opportunity to pull someone down, they will take it. I remember sometimes when I remember the one time, if I can give one story, we got new textbooks and we had to read out the number, and I opened it, and there were 3 6s that I had to pronounce. And I was near the back of the class because of my surname starting with Williams. How many are on? Lemon number 6. Got married to my high school sweetheart. We were together for, I can't even remember now, about 11 years. We got divorced. She left me for someone else that I was actually quite close to. And when I tried to get her back, it didn't work. So I grew up in a family as a PK, pastor's kid. And a lot of people think that might be nice. Like, to be honest, if I remember our family lunches at my mom and my granny and my grandpa's table, there's a lot of good memories. I don't want to say there isn't. But we would go there every Sunday for lunch, living next door to my grandparents for a couple of years. And I was always there. I loved being with my granny and grandpa. So I was there almost every afternoon. Those lunches and that, I saw how much, you guys heard church hurt? Talk about church hurt? Let me tell you, we got serious family church hurt. Not just that maybe we caused, but that we received as well. People that betrayed us, people that tried to take over this church to push my grandparents out, people that tried to push my mom out of this church. And I saw them hurt. I saw my grandfather in tears on 1 or 2 occasions. I saw my gran in tears on many occasions. I've seen my mom, we sat here in an eldership meeting and someone wrote a letter to her. I can't remember how many pages it was, but we got through about half of it. And we decided as an eldership to stop reading it because it was such an attack on her character. I think a lot of Pastor Sandy's illnesses, now I know a lot of her illnesses that she's got is because of what people that were in this church had done to her. So there starts to develop a hate towards the church or towards God, because you're like, God, if you look at what she's doing and how she sacrifices herself for everyone, how can you let people treat her like this? From 2016, so it's about 10 years now, I've been struggling with tension headaches. It goes in my neck, it starts small, and then when it gets worse, it starts going up by my ears and then into my eyes, and sometimes I struggle to see out of my left eye. It was a lot worse. I've learned how to manage it, but God still hasn't healed me yet, but I know He's going to. And that, I feel, is a lemon that I can complain about so many times, but sometimes I get maybe a bit irritated with people, but a lot of the time I'm just in so much pain. But I choose not to focus on it, because if I think about it, it seems to get worse. So I'd rather just ignore it. You come to this point where you're like, why, God? Like, why all of these things? Like, why? And I'm sure a lot of us sitting here have gotten to this point where you just ask God these questions. Why? Why me? Why that person? Why my family? Why my mom? Why my daughter? Why my son? Even Jesus got to this point. Matthew 27, verse 46. About 3 PM, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? Even Jesus got to the point where He said, Lord, why? Why have you forsaken me? But like I said, you cannot do anything about your past, but you can do something about your attitude towards your past. I want to say, I thank God every day for the past that I have, for what I've been through. On my phone, I've got it by my notes. One of the notes that I go to every day for work, I've got it right at the top. God, thank you for everything I've been through, for every trial and tribulation. And I genuinely do. The fact that I'm here today as a lead pastor, by my definition, is an absolute miracle. When I was preparing for this, to share my testimony and to share everything, when I got to like lemon number 5 and started, because I've forgiven everything, I've moved on, I'm happy, life is really awesome. I've chosen to look at it not as things that held me back, but things that actually pushed me forward. I've used it as fuel to inspire me to make a difference in other people's lives. But going to prepare through it and trying to think about all these things, I just thought, yes, Lord, is this a sermon? Is it a testimony? Is it a soapy drama? I mean, there's more drama in this testimony than there is in a series of Love Island, Genesis 50, verse 20, Joseph was speaking to his brothers. You intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people. How many people would have lived in bitterness if their brother sold them as a slave? Different attitude towards your past. I mentioned the things that happened with my dad. Not only is our relationship restored, it's so much stronger than I think most people have their relationships with their dad, from my opinion. Do you know how many young people at the school and at the youth I've helped that grew up without fathers? That grew up without dads, or that grew up with dads that they were struggling with? There are still kids today that I'm there for. For about 17 years, I've been involved in helping kids I can pick it up with a lot of kids. I can go to them and say, hey, everything all right with your dad? And then the tears just start coming. It's a gift. It's a privilege what I went through, because I get to help others. Because if I didn't go through that, not all of them would open up to me. And I could share some of the stories. And now they are able to receive from me. And now some of them have grown up and they are helping others that grew up without fathers. My cricket dreams that I had, my mom could only afford 2 sessions a year for me. So I love our cricketers, our cricket boys that we had over the years and girls. So for the last 10 years, all one-on-one coaching that I do it for free. Because I want to give boys and girls the opportunity that I never had. There's not 1 ounce of bitterness I have to my parents that they couldn't afford that for me. But I've taken that as fuel, and it's inspired me to help the next generation. Golf was a real tough one for me to let go, because I knew I could have made it. Because I knew the secret of hard work, where a lot of young people don't. But looking back, if I didn't have those problems with knees, I wouldn't have come to coach cricket here at this place. And I would not have ended up in this organization. I would not be living here today if that didn't happen. I would not have met the most beautiful girl in the world. My speaking difficulty is getting teased at school over and over for the way I spoke. I think God decided to use me to speak because He knew I wouldn't get a big head. Because the fact that God uses me to minister is an absolute miracle. I went from being afraid to speak in front of a class to being able to speak in front of parents, as a CEO, to be able to come preach the word without any fear, because I know that it's all for God. And I know that if ever I do preach a good word, or someone comes to me and says, well done, thank you, that meant a lot to me, I know deep inside that that's only God. Because if it was my natural ability, I wouldn't have gotten far. God does not only want your ability, He wants your availability. Remember that, people. He's not always looking for your ability. Sometimes He'll use your ability. Sometimes He doesn't even need it. Sometimes He needs your disability. If you give Him your availability, He will use your disability. Don't ever think you can't serve in church or do something because there's something wrong with you. You might just be the person that God's looking for because He knows you will not take credit for it. Because if people do it in their own strength, there's the temptation of them getting a big head and being filled with pride. The divorce that I went through stripped me of any pride and brought me numerous times to my knees. God gave me someone that can handle my future, someone that will support me in my ministry, but also do ministry with me. Yes, at that time, any of you that have lost someone in a serious relationship, there are those thoughts of, will someone ever love me again? But you do. You think that. Looking back, I'm like, why did I think that? But for months, I cried at my dad's flat in Cape Town. Late at night, we would chat till 2, 3 in the morning. You would hear me crying. One morning, you heard me crying. And he pulled me out and we chatted on the sleeper couch in the lounge. He let me sleep in the main bedroom for a few weeks because he felt so bad for me. You know, I was holding on to those lemons, Lord, will anyone ever love me again? Dad, no one will ever love me. I'm divorced. What kind of woman would want a divorced guy? He would say to me, don't worry, my boy. Any woman would be lucky to have you. No, Dad, they won't. I'm so blessed to have gone through that. I'm so blessed to have been betrayed. Because I learned that God will never ever let me down. You see, guys, there's a powerful moment the day you find out that you are not okay. And that's okay. Because God loves you anyway. There's just something that happens when I found out, hey, I'm not okay. And that's okay. Because my Heavenly Father loves me anyway. God's not looking for perfect children. He's already perfect. He just needs our availability. Family church hurt. This was something I had to learn. So I grew up in a family, all my aunts sitting there, you guys are all guilty. Now one day you're going to be just like your grandfather and you're going to take over the church. Yeah, I was like, nah. Do you see what Grandpa went through? No, yes, my dad used to tell me, no, the biggest calling, the best calling ever is to be a pastor. I said, I don't want that. Well, then I will settle for something less. I fell in love with the school, and I said very clearly to my mom on numerous occasions, I love the school, I don't mind taking over the school, but I don't want anything to do with the church. I will attend it, but I don't want to be in leadership. Not after what you've going through, what you've gone through. And I used to break my mom's heart. And, sometimes, Auntie Jane here? Auntie Jane would come to me, yeah, you're just like your grandfather. Yes, every Sunday, someone would come and say, Shay, your grandfather would be so proud of you. You're just like him. I just think, I'm proud of him, but I don't want to go through what he went through. And God started to tell me, Shay, He started to show me the good, take my eyes off the negative. The people's lives that were changed, the testimony, the inheritance that He left for us as a family, the spiritual inheritance that we had and have. It was so beautiful. Auntie Wendy, I went to go visit Nathan and Ethan, and we took them out for lunch last year. And I spoke to them about the inheritance that Grandpa left for us. I had to learn to let go of this lemon of what my family had been through. Make lemonade from it. And my two cousins, they are getting involved in ministry now in Durban as well. We have a choice, people, to what we do with these lemons. We can use it to hold us back, where we can feel sorry for ourselves. And I've learned, you know what I've learned through this, especially this part? I've learned to not care about what other people's opinions of me, what other people say about me, and I don't really care what other people's opinions are of me. What truly matters is God's opinion of me, not to be a people pleaser. I don't use others' opinions of me. I use God's opinion of me. I really don't struggle. And sometimes it bothers people around me. I really don't struggle with what people think about me. As long as I'm okay with God, and God, if I stand before God and He says I did the right things, that's all that matters. And I think for everyone sitting here to know that their leader is more interested in pleasing God than he is of pleasing certain individuals, that is a massive advantage for this church going forward. Philippians 4 verse 13 says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I want to say little is much in the hands of God. You see all my lemons there? You see all the excuses I did make and could still make, but little is much in the hands of God. People, I chose to move on. I chose to change my attitude. I chose not to be a victim. It didn't happen overnight. I had to constantly choose to forgive, to let go, to stop blaming, to stop making excuses. James 1 verse 2 to 3 says, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow." I consider every one of those lemons joy. It was an opportunity to be tested. It was an opportunity for God to work in my life. It was an opportunity for me to humble myself before God. I want to ask everyone sitting here, why do you feel you got let down by God? Why do you feel you want to throw in the towel? Why do you feel you got an unfair deal? Now, some of us, we're sitting here and we're thinking, yes, I really got a bum deal. God gave me a bum deal compared to other people. But my next question is, what are you doing for the kingdom of God? We need to stop complaining. Don't whine, but shine. What's your problem? I asked my mom, please will you just send me a message with all your diseases that you've gone through. It's a joke that we have. Everything that you've struggled with. She sent me a message. I couldn't even type it out, so I thought I'd read it. It's so long. Lord healed mom of lung bacteria. This is her message to me. I picked up in Zambia. I battled with it for 4 years. I was in hospital at least 3 times a year with pneumonia. Mom been healed from diabetes, high blood pressure. I was diagnosed with neuropathy. Nerve damage in my whole body, 24-hour pain. Fibromyalgia pain that jumps all the time, causes chronic tiredness, headaches, brain fog, arthritis, osteoarthritis in my hips, back, spine, shoulders. Pain 24 hours a day. The specialist in Pretoria told my sister, Zan, my sister and I, that out of 10, the pain that I battle with on a daily basis is 10 out of 10. Specialist said, I am his patient with the highest threshold of pain. I tell him every time, it's God. A couple of those things Pastor Sandy's been healed with, but the last few things she's still going with every day. We know God's going to heal her, but He hasn't done it yet. She lives in pain. So while doing all of her work for this church, behind the scenes, the finances that she does with Q, she's still leading a ministry that we know as Shekinah ministry. Not just attending church, she's leading a ministry on top of all the work, and her workload has not become less. So I want to ask you, what is your problem, healthy man? What is your problem, healthy woman? If God could use this family, what is your excuse? Why do we have to beg people to come to church and to serve God? I walk up to people sometimes and ask them to get involved in a ministry, and their response is, I need to pray about it. You don't need to pray about serving God. You just do it. Only prayer is, which one should I do? You might say, I don't sing in the church anymore because someone hurt my feelings. Well, Jesus got whipped, beaten, and put a crown on his thorns, and they hit the thorns on his head. And he still died for those same people. Yet we won't serve in a church because someone hurt our feelings. Some of you need to get back in the band. Some of you need to go serve in kids' church. Some of you need to serve in the hospitality team. You might say, yo, Shay, but you don't know what I'm going through, what I've been through. Do I even have the right to serve in a ministry with all the sin that I've committed? Let me tell you, the bigger your past, the more perfect you are for that ministry called the next step. Because every Sunday we've got new people that might be struggling with alcohol, might be struggling with drugs, or might be struggling with abuse. So the more lemons you have, that ministry is perfect for you. In fact, it's like qualifications. You know, like when you go for a job, it's like you get degrees and honors and that. The more things you've gone through, the more qualified you are to serve in that ministry, to help people. I truly believe that everyone has a place in the local church. It's time to stop praying and making excuses. Can we please put that picture of when I was born, Prem, with all the pipes? They said that that boy would never play sport. Not only was I able to play sport, I've been coaching sport for about 17 years. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 1 verse 6, he who began a good work in you will carry it on to the completion until the day of Christ. God is not done with your story. God finishes what he starts. I said the best is yet to come. I did not say it's going to be easy. But when you start giving up these lemons and dealing with them, God's going to start to use you in a powerful way. And things might never change. A lot of these lemons are not in my life anymore. But I've still got the headaches. And that's okay. I am so blessed, church. I didn't get shafted by God. I didn't get a bum deal. I'm blessed. If God can do it for me, he can do it for every one of you. I am who I am because of what God says I am. If I listened to the other people's opinions of me, even people that I loved very much, I would not be standing here today. I know who I am. I know where I've been. And I know where I'm going. Because of what Jesus has done for me. And I want to end off on this for us as a church. And I want to prophesy this over our church. When I was asking the Lord, what can I say to the church on this special day? Haggai 2 verse 9 says, the glory of this present house will be greater than the glory of the former house, says the Lord Almighty. The best is yet to come for our church. And the best is yet to come for your family, for you as an individual, for your future. In God's kingdom, the best is never behind us. We don't use words like the good old days. The best is ahead of us. We know when we are children of God, what's waiting for us in heaven one day. Even if life doesn't get easier, the best is yet to come. But the closer we get to God, the more he'll use you, the more you can do. And I just want to encourage everyone to go look at your life. Maybe you've dealt with a lot of lemons, but maybe there's one or two that you're still holding on to. And when things don't go your way, you bring them out of your pocket and you say, oh, I didn't get that job because of this, or this happened because of my mom. It's time to stop blaming other people. Your lemon that you might be carrying is yourself. Stop blaming yourself. Let go of these lemons. Can we please stand?